then we'll have a break, a second one, and then the third session just before Salat al-Dhuhr, maybe shorter. We have the option of praying Dhuhr here, because I know Dhuhr is 1:15. If we finish one, we might not be able to catch it in ICOI. So an option, if you want, we can be praying in the back at 1:15 here. If you want to leave, you can. And after Salah, I'll also be here. If you want to ask any questions, want to see the material, feel free to do that. One other thing, as you can see, like we don't have a big screen, so I know the PowerPoint, you can barely see it, but if you look on the walls, there is a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it's a link to the same PowerPoint presentation, right? So if you have a phone or a laptop or anything, just scan this and you can have the slides in front of you if you want. So you can zoom, you can go forward, backward, right? And inshallah, all the slides, all the material will be made available to all of you, right? So don't need to worry about taking pictures or anything like that, inshallah. You will have access to everything, inshallah. Right. So let's start, inshallah. Bismillah. So as we discussed yesterday, first we said the name of the class. I just ran to a very important topic to remind you of this. It's not a superhero one-man show that came, liberated Jerusalem, and it's what? The whole generation of Salahuddeen Al-Ayubi. The men around Salahuddin is as great as Salahuddeen Al-Ayubi. He was a representative of a whole generation, right? So this is a story of a whole generation. And as I always say, it's about the women and the men, the old and the young, the scholar and the knight. It's not a one-man show. It was never a one-man show, right? And this is something we need to learn today. If we don't work together, change does not last. Right. So we said also quickly, as a summary, we saw how things were before Salahuddin, and we made a point that it is not that Salahuddin came, conquered the danger, which was the Crusades. We said the biggest challenge that Salahuddin and Nuruddin Zinki faced was the state of the Muslims. And the basic lesson was the following: when we get frustrated from today's reality, when we think that we're under the feet of everybody, when we think Muslims are, it's hopeless and helpless and we've never been that bad. If you read history, you see, no, it was actually much worse before. And that gives us hope, because if it was much worse before and we recover, we can recover too, right? So that was the first point. And the second was it's not going to be just about the history line and the battles, which are like really interesting, but also the scholars behind the scene. What did they teach? Who were the scholars? Why? Because we have access to the books of those scholars. So the scholars that caused the change, they wrote and they taught. We have access to this. Maybe we can find a cure for our diseases in that as well. And a quick summary of yesterday, we saw how things were before the crusade came, how the Muslims were. And we said there were three big groups, if you remember, right? We said the Ismailis, and when we started, the Ismailis were in Egypt, and that's a deviant sect with very deviant belief. They took Egypt for more than 2 centuries. They're the ones that built the Azhar. They're the ones that built Cairo. It was, in the beginning, a very powerful state. And they represented an ideological challenge, because their belief was very different from the Sunni belief. It was way outside the norm, way outside. Many Muslim scholars consider them to be non-Muslims, by the way, right? Because it was so extreme, right? But they took power in Egypt. And we said that the Khilafah was in Baghdad at the time. But the Khalifa, you don't hear about him at all. In everything we discussed yesterday, where is the Khalifa? He's in his palace doing his thing, and if you read the history, playing with pigeons, dancers, it's like he in his own world, right? But we had the Seljuks that came at the time, they're Sunni, right? And they took power of Sham, and the problem was that Sham was so divided. It was 22 different states. And we said, eventually what happened? By the efforts of the scholars, change happened, which led to the appearance of Imaduddin Zinki, and he succeeded in combining 2 cities together in Sham, followed by, and I think this is where we stopped yesterday, Nuruddin Zinki, his son, and we spoke about him and how he entered the scene and what type of a person he was, and we'll speak more about him today, and how he succeeded in uniting Sham. And the one thing to remember, and please remember this, Imaduddin Zinki's method was the following. He saw that the problem with Muslims, we said 2 things that he said. Number 1, Muslims need to unite. We cannot fight the Crusaders so I need to unite the Muslims. Number 2, justice is important, including my armed forces and soldiers. They have to be disciplined, and I have to establish justice. But we said that the way he did it was a little bit out of the box. He did it using what, do you remember? How did he establish that? The sword. Basically, I'll be very tough, right? I'll be very rough. So I established justice. If you make a mistake, harsh punishment was one characteristic. He was a soldier at heart. But he respected scholars so much, right? His son Nuruddin Zinki was different. Raised by scholars, was a scholar himself. He had the same ideas. We need to unite the Muslims, right? We need definitely justice. But the thing that he added, yes, Allah says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. It's not about uniting. It's about unite on what? What brings us together? Is it our nationality? Is it our language? Is it our culture? And that's what Nuruddin Zinki said. It's not about ethnicity. It's not about culture. This is not about a Palestinian issue, a Turkish issue, an Arab issue. No. It's about La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Right? So he implemented Sharia laws. He said no harsh punishments, nothing outside the realm of Sharia. We have to follow what the Prophet ﷺ said. And he was a scholar of hadith himself, Hanafi faqih by all measures. He respected the Prophet ﷺ so much, and he was a very serious follower of that. And we described his ibadah and his righteousness and his tawakkul and his bravery last time. One thing I would say before we continue, I didn't say it last time, when he did this, you know what, you cannot use harsh punishments, you can only use Sharia, he got a complaint. People complained about what? This Sharia law we don't want. Why do you think they said that? Today when I say Sharia law, and people say, no. Why is it no? Well, it's too harsh, right? In his time, when he implemented that, his complaint came from the police. And you know what the complaint was? Listen, this Sharia law that you want to implement, we won't be able to punish anybody. It is too lenient. You can't, everybody will get out. Because in Sharia, to prove that someone is guilty is so difficult, by design. And Sharia limits us so much. We can't crucify people. That's what they used to do. We can't, I need to crucify someone, I need to throw him in prison, I need to... And Shari'i law, you can't, right? So they were upset. And they like, we don't want that. People, we need to control people. They're used to the iron fist, right? So they sent a scholar to Nuruddin Zinki, telling him, please speak to him, that, the benefit of people, this is not going to work out, this is too lenient, and many of the thieves, they will get out of the prison, right? And then how will we deter people? So they sent someone, Sheikh Omar, his name is Sheikh Omar, it's narrated by them. He goes to Nuruddin Zinki and complains that, listen, the Ummah needs some kind of strength, and there's a lot of thieves, and the police is telling you, this is too lenient, people will get out of prison, people will start, doing wrong things, they just let them loose. Just give them the power. And you should see his response. He says, first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that legislates. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most knowledgeable of what benefits mankind and what does not benefit mankind. And Allah's Sharia is perfect. If we attempt to add something that's not in Shara, it's as if we're saying Allah's wisdom is not sufficient and is not enough. And ma'ad Allah from there. Ma'ad Allah min there. We cannot do this. Right? And may Allah guide me and guide you to realize that the benefit of His ibad lies in nothing more than implementing the Sharia law as is, not adding it. So it tells you how serious he was. One of the things that Nuruddin Zinki said, they remember what he did? Abolishing all taxes. Taxes is not an Islamic concept, so every nation that he ruled, 0% taxes. So the economy thrived. He started building establishments, right? Hospitals, we said, gardens, parks, pharmacies. He's very generous, right? So Sham thrived in his time. Then we saw how the Ismailis in Egypt were so weak, and you know what happened? They tried to ask Nuruddin Zinki for help, which ended up, if you remember, we ended up yesterday with what? The appearance of Salahuddin in Egypt. That's where we stopped last time. And the thing to remember, Salahuddin was a young man at the time. He was not interested in any of this. It was his uncle, Salahuddin Shirkuh, that saw him, and he said, this young man needs to learn about life. He needs to learn ilm. He needs to have experience. He needs to understand what manhood is, what chivalry is. So he asked that he accompanies him in all the campaigns in Egypt, right? And that's where Salahuddin, when you read his biography, got really effective. Because the group with Salahuddin Shirkuh, his uncle, was scholars as well as knights. He lived with them for years, right? He saw what a man is. He saw ilm, right? He saw chivalry, he saw steadfastness, he understood life, he saw the sacrifices, he saw war, he saw so it changed Salahuddin so much. But we said, and I think that's where we stopped, is that Salahuddin Shirkuh, when they succeed in taking Egypt and he becomes the wazir, right? We said he passed away, he died 2 months later. And the Ismaili Khalifa in Egypt at the time wanted someone to control. He said, who should I appoint as a wazir? He picked, in his opinion, the weakest and the most not experienced person from the people of Salahuddin. So he picked Yusuf, Salahuddin at the time, right? Why? Because he saw him as what? 29 years old, not experienced, I'd probably be able to control him, people will differ with him, right? And not knowingly, he picked Salahuddin Al-Ayubi, right? And we said Salahuddin never wanted this, was not even aspiring for that. He was forced into it. Egypt, becoming the wazir of Egypt, fell onto him without him asking, right? Now, the reason I'm saying this, one of the things that some people say against Salahuddin when you read his biography, and unfortunately some scholars in our time, very well known, they said that, which was like, they said, well, Salahuddin Al-Ayubi, he served under the Ismailis, and then he revolted against them and removed them from power. So they display Salahuddin as what? Yeah, he's a man that compromises. He left the Sunni camp and he went to the Ismailis and served under them and then betrayed them. This is not, first of all, he did not ask for it. Second, what if you were in Nuruddin Zinki's position? There was a plan. The Ismailis are in Egypt. You think it benefits the Ummah to leave Egypt under the Ismailis or to try to go from within and change the system? That's what Nuruddin Zinki was after. So when Salahuddin was there, it's not, first of all, he did not ask for it. Second, it was a part of the plan, right? Third, I think it's not something bad. If your plan is to rescue Egypt from the Ismailis, bring it back to Sunnah, that's not something to blame Salahuddin for. Right? So that's not so valid of a claim. Right. Inshallah, let's start today. So we said that Salahuddin in Egypt faced two different challenges. One internal and one external. When Egypt fell, right, to Salahuddin, and now Nuruddin Zinki is the leader, Salahuddin is his wazir in Egypt, and it seems that Sham and Egypt are together, certain people were not happy. Who were not happy with this? The Ismailis are definitely not happy. The Franks are like now really scared, because what does that mean? You can see now they're in between two United Nations. Nuruddin Zinki is troubled by himself. Now he has the wealth of Egypt, serious problem. As third group. The assassins, right? They're the Ismailis and they're like, what? And the assassins are very dangerous. So Salahuddin now is facing this external force, if you will, right? But internally, Egypt itself was not under his grip. The Egyptian army, do you think it's loyal to Salahuddin? So the army is not with you. How about the judges of Egypt, the Azhar University? They're not with you. How about the people of Egypt? Not yet. They don't know him. They're Ismailis themselves. They're confused, right? So they're kind of 50-50. So you're ruling a big state, Egypt, right? With all the forces against you, not only outside, inside. So that's a huge challenge. What did Salahuddin do to reform? This is also a very important question. If you were in his position, what would you do? And this is again what we need to look. The first thing Salahuddin did, same policies of Nuruddin Zinki. When it came to, the first thing he did, he appealed to the Egyptian people. By doing what? Implementing Sharia. Reflecting the character of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the first thing in Sharia, 0% taxes. Egypt at the time, I told you, Egyptians were taxed. You were taxed to drink from the Nile River. You would pay taxes for that. The Hujjaj, if you're a pig, you're going for a Hajj, for God's sake, right? If you pass through Egypt, you will be stopped, pay taxes. You don't have money, you're thrown into prison. Right? So people were overtaxed. There was extreme poverty. Here comes Salahuddin, and all of a sudden, what does he do? No taxes anymore. But it doesn't stop there. A part of being a good Muslim, he was taught, is what? From all the shuyukh, generosity, giving, spending. And as we said, Salahuddin was a very generous person. So he started, any poor person that comes to him, started spending. And people were used to the opposite. The rulers take our money, not give us money, right? Then his smile, his leniency, his simplicity, right? So he started to appeal to the Egyptian people, right? They started to see something they weren't used to. But then the first thing that he started, as we'll see, is what? What do you think Egypt needs now? You have Al-Azhar University that propagates the Ismaili method. What do you need to do? Scholars, 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 scholars. Ilm, ilm, ilm. Egyptians have been deprived of ilm for so long. So you'll see one of the focuses of Salahuddin immediately is what? Building schools. The same, remember Nidal al-Mulk? Remember Nuruddin Zenki? The same strategy as we'll see today, right? He started, so for example, he went, the biggest prison that the Ismailis have, the one that you used to capture the Hujjaj that do not pay and throw them in, he destroyed the prison. And instead, he built one of the biggest schools, and it's dedicated for the Shafi'i method. And this school, when they describe it, they say the school was like a city by itself. Meaning what? It's not just a school. School, hospitals, pharmacies, dormitory, parks, right? Even cooks, right? Because if you want to study, it's on the state. So he's encouraging, if you don't have money and you want to come to that school, you're taken care of. Absolutely 100%. And then in the idea of endowments, massive endowments, lands and what have you, so the school is being well taken care of, right? And again, you see the idea here is now he's starting to propagate what? The Sunni Madhab. And we'll discuss this more, right? So Salahuddin starts a major reform inside. Of the things that he did, also like, okay, let me turn back, we can discuss it later. So of the things that he did is like when Egypt has the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. How come Egypt has no fleet, no navy? So we realize this, when the Franks have a very powerful navy. So we start immediately build a fleet. More than 80 ships and battleships, if you will, were built in his time. And some of them had the ability to carry horses, you know, the Navy SEALs. So if you want to attack, you carry the horses, the knights, you know, and then you go and you deploy them. Some of them had trebuchets and you know, fire-throwing equipment. So he started a reform in what the naval power of Egypt. I'm mentioning this because you will see it at play right now, right? This was an important thing, right? Type. The men around Salahuddin, we describe this quickly. One of the things he did is he realized, I can't do everything by myself. So he started asking Nuruddin Zenki to send specific knights and specific scholars to him. First of all, he got his family, his father Najmuddin, his brother Al-Adil, his nephew. He started inviting them all, come help me in Egypt. He started getting some of the very powerful knights of Nuruddin Zenki, the names that we described last time, remember? Kokburian, right? He asked Nuruddin, Egypt needs reform, I need a powerful army there, right? So he gets some of the best knights of Nuruddin Zenki. Also, he surrounded himself with scholars. The list of the scholars around Salahuddin, I will take 1 hour if I was to tell you the biography of each one of those. He surrounded himself with different scholars, fuqaha, right? Wa'az, admonishers, like Al-Wa'ad ibn Najah, a student of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, right? Al-Qadi al-Fadil, the judge of Egypt, right? So he surrounded himself with the scholars. And then he went to the scholars in Alexandria. Remember we said there were 2 great scholars in Egypt, right? And he started building schools there, spending on them. He actually went and sat down in their majlis. Salahuddin heard, you know, Muwatta of Imam Malik, the book of Hadith of Imam Malik. He took it from Tahir ibn Auf al-Iskandarani, the biggest Maliki scholar of the time. He heard the entire Muwatta with Isnad on his hands. Then he went to Al-Hafid al-Sulafi, a great Hadith scholar, a Shafi'i, and he sat with him, studied with him. He took all his children, his wife, and everybody did this as a family, right? So he started connecting with scholars of Egypt, the Sunni scholars of Egypt. And we'll speak more about his method of reform. But then, the challenges started to happen. As we said, the Ismailis, now back to the timeline. The Ismailis were not happy. And they decided, we have a plan. We'll make a coup. We'll overthrow him. An idea that some people do nowadays. When you don't like the ruler, you know, you want the previous state to come back, do this, right? So they decided, but their plan was very serious. Number 1, we'll contact the assassins. So that we had the assassins to kill him. Number 2, they planned in Cairo. They started, you know, with the politicians there. You take this, you take that. We revolt in the castle, and we have the army here, and we attack. and and we take over Cairo, and then we throw his men and we take over the palace. But to create a deterrent for him, something that keeps him preoccupied, they contacted the Franks. And they said, we're intending to make a coup. Why don't you attack the coastal cities in Egypt? Why? So Salahuddin goes and he's busy with this, and then we do this. You get the idea? Right? So Salahuddin now faced a very serious issue. And this was like maybe 1 year after he took power in Egypt. All of a sudden, there is the revolt that's going to happen in Cairo, right? And a massive fleet comes from the islands of Sicily and shows in front of the city of Dumyat. Fortunately, the coup in Cairo, one of the people there, right, that was there for like years ago, Al-Wahid ibn Najib, is a student of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani that studied with, and went to Egypt to propagate the Sunni creed, right? And he went in and he mingled with people in Cairo. And the Ismailis kind of, trusted him. He looks like one of those Sufis or whatever, right? And then he heard about what's going on, and he said, what are you doing? I want to be with you. What do I get if I help you? And they said, okay, good, great, you can deceive Salahuddin, you can do this, and they started including him in their plans. Al-Wahid ibn Najib kept on going with them weeks and weeks. He got all their plans, and what do you think he did? He went to Salahuddin and presented the whole plot. And Salahuddin ordered the arrest. He arrested every city, because now he has names, right? All of those people that attempted the coup in Cairo were arrested. Nevertheless, the Egyptian army revolted, and they started attacking the army of Salahuddin. And a battle started to happen between the men of Salahuddin and the Ismaili army of Egypt. Where? In the middle of Cairo, by the palace, right? Meanwhile, the news came in the city of Dumyat, the Franks, a massive fleet appeared, surrounded the city, and they're about to go down, surround the city, and they're attacking the north, and you're being attacked from the north and from Cairo. Salahuddin immediately sends to Nuruddin Zinki, I need help. The response of Nuruddin, this shows you the character of Nuruddin Zinki. Something really heart-touching happened. Nuruddin Zinki, as always, the first thing he starts is what? Fasting day and night. The spiritual part. Fasting, intensive dua. Second, he started attacking all the forts in the north to create a divergence, right? Started sending knights to Salahuddin to support him, right? And then, while this is happening, he's fasting, and he commanded everybody in the cities of Sham, come and help. We need to help Salahuddin, right? And one story that Athir narrates, one of the rulers at the time, Salahuddin sends to him, and come and help, come fight the Franks. So that ruler is sitting, and one of his followers comes and says, what are you going to do? Are you going to go with with Nuruddin Zinki? And that ruler said, no. And he says, Nuruddin Zinki قد تخشف. Nuruddin Zinki, man, he's becoming like a dry bone, fasting by day, praying 2/3 of the night, and he's throwing, يلقي نفسه في المهالك, and he's throwing himself into disasters. Right? I plan not to go, I plan just to sit here, and I'm not going to do anything. Next day, his follower came and he saw this ruler getting ready, putting the armor and the zarad and preparing his sword, and said, what, did you change your mind? He said, no, but Nuruddin Zinki did something with me I've never seen before. He said what? He said he started sending letters to all the scholars in my city, telling them about what the Franks are doing, asking them and telling them what his intent is, and asking them to make dua for him. And he said, all the scholars in my city are making dua for him and cursing me. And if I don't help him, people will revolt and I have to go, right? So he ended up joining, right? And the battle started, it took like maybe 4 or 5 days. And the city of Dumyat, things were not going well. And in one day, 5, 6 days, and Nuruddin Zinki is fasting every day, fighting by the day. And one of the shuyukh of Nuruddin Zinki, he sees a dream. Right? And in the dream, he sees the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes to this sheikh, and he tells him, I want you to tell Nuruddin Zinki that the crusade is going to be defeated today. And the siege of Dumyat is over, and Salahuddin is victorious. So he said, O Prophet of Allah, he's not going to believe me. He said, tell him by the sign of the day of the battle of Harib, and he will understand. And Fajr Salah, there in the masjid, Nuruddin Zenki is there praying as usual, and this sheikh is sitting there, and after Salah, he's like kind of, what will I tell him? And all of a sudden, Nuruddin Zenki looks at him and tells him to follow. Should you tell me, or should I tell you? And the man was shocked. He said, yes, you saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What did he tell you? And the man was shocked. Look at who Nuruddin Zenki is. And the man was shocked. He said, yes, Sayyidi, yes, he told me that Salahuddin is going to be victorious and things are good and that the Crusaders are defeated in one day. And that's what he told me. Then Nuruddin Zenki said, that's not it. What did he tell? What did you tell him? He said, well, I told him you won't believe me. And they said, and what did he say? He said, he told me to tell you by the sign of the day of Harim, the battle of Harim, which happened before. And Nuruddin Zenki broke into tears. And the Sheikh said, Ya Sayyidi, what is that sign? What was that dua? That was the battle. You remember when Asad was trapped in Egypt, and and they were going to attack Nuruddin. It's a major battle. And remember, he spent the entire night in dua, and he said yes. And that's how we know about this dua. That he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Rabb, do not let the Muslims be defeated because of the sins of this Nuruddin Mahmud. Do not bring victory to Nuruddin Mahmud, but surely bring victory to the Muslims and to your religion. Right? And he was very sincere in his dua. Right? And indeed, that day, subhanAllah, exactly that's what happened. It is said in Dumyat, Salahuddin sends a fire-throwing equipment. I don't know the details of it. I tried to look. I have no idea what that equipment was. And like the ships are in the sea. The wind changed direction. Typically, the wind will blow from the sea inward, right? That day, something happened. The wind started blowing the opposite direction. So when they started throwing the fire, it went further. And they succeeded in burning all the ships that surrounded the city of Dumyat, right? And in one day, the Frankish campaign, all the ships got on fire. It was massively defeated. And in Cairo, the army of Salahuddin succeeded in defeating the Egyptian army. This was the year 565. And Salahuddin emerges victorious. But you can see Egypt is not stable, right? What happened next? Right, and we describe this. Nuruddin Zenki sends to Salahuddin, telling him it's time. You see, he was planning for something. It's time to abolish the Ismaili Khilafah. As long as the Khalifa is still there, they will continue to plot. It is time. It is time that Egypt formally returns to the Sunnah, right? And we make the khutbah in Egypt for the Abbasi Khalifa in Baghdad. Because up till now, the khutbah was still given in Egypt to the Ismaili Khalifa. And Salahuddin was afraid the Egyptians were going to revolt. And Nuruddin insisted. And indeed, Salahuddin, with the help of Al-Qadi Fadil and other scholars, arranged in Egypt, right? He did one thing. The first thing he did is he stopped the khutbah from Al-Azhar Mosque. Al-Azhar, right? Because it's loyal to the Ismailis. He starts what? No, we have other masajid you don't need, and no khutbah in Al-Azhar. Right? So people have to attend in the other masajid. You see his idea, right? And again, unfortunately, some people use, Salahuddin, he's the one that closed the Azhar. Actually, he closed the Azhar so that he reforms the Azhar. This is what he was doing, right? And this is what he did, right? And indeed, on one Friday, everybody goes and they make the khutbah on that Friday to the Abbasi Khalifa in Baghdad. And Salahuddin goes and formally, with his troops, removes the Ismaili Khalifa in Egypt. He does not kill him, he does not do anything, but just you're out of power, you and your family, and you stay away. And that was the end of the Dawla al-Fatimiyya, the Ismaili Khilafah in Egypt. It fell on the hands of Salahuddin. But do you think that will be the end of it? You think they're not going to try to come back? And Salahuddin understood this. This is not the end. The army of Egypt, what did he do? He disbanded the army of Egypt. This army is not loyal to me. They're loyal to the Ismailis. I need to raise a new army from the Egyptians. The army of Egypt at the time was not only Egyptians, mercenaries, people from all over. It was not at all loyal to him. So he said, all the Egyptian army, no harm. Just go away. Right? Khalas, here's some money and I don't need your service. I'll start a new army in Egypt. So now the army of this army that left is not happy, right? The Ismailis are not happy. The assassins are not happy. The assassins, by the way, in 565, they tried to assassinate Salahuddin. The attempt failed in a very interesting way. They sent 3 people to attack Salahuddin. Fortunately, one of the commanders of Salahuddin Al-Ayubi recognized him. And he said, I don't know how. He said, I know you. What are you doing here? You are not of our army, because they were pretending to be, And then they were caught. So that attempt failed. Right? Right. Salahuddin then, again, a part of his reform, as we said, he started with the Azhar. Right? Now it's time to return the Azhar to the Sunni school. Right? He changed all the qudha. The people that rule. Now you cannot rule with the Ismaili madhab, you rule with the Shafi'i madhab or the Maliki madhab. Right? So he started the reform on that level. Again, I'm not going to go more. A massive reformation happened in Egypt in the time. Right? And this again, let me say that quickly. One of the men of Salahuddin, Egyptians know him. Any people from Egypt? Okay. Again, I'm sorry, don't say it in the Egyptian, his name is Baha'u'ddin Qaraqush. And Egyptians, we don't say the qaf. We don't say qaha, we say ahwa. We don't say qa, we say air, right? Qaraqush becomes Araush, right? And then the Egyptians here, when I say Araush, hukm Araush, that's a book written by the Ismailis. Right? To defame Qaraqush was the man that when this happened, Salahuddin took the affairs of Cairo, removed it from the Ismaili, put Baha'u'ddin in charge. Right? And one of the things, Baha'u'ddin was a builder. Right? So he started building the agricultural reformation in Egypt. The citadel, Salahuddin citadel, and it's very famous. You go to Egypt, everybody, this is what Baha'u'ddin did. So he made the walls around the city of Cairo, massive reconstruction of the city, hospitals. Again, Salahuddin continued his reform in building the city of Cairo and everything else. Free healthcare to people, right? So, and again, one thing I want to point out here, and I see this, and this is important, I probably don't see the slide. Salahuddin did something really interesting. When I looked at it and I analyzed it, something very interesting, a concept that I want to share with you. The people have been living 200 years under the Ismailis, right? So I need to change 2 things. I need to change the creed, the intellect, the way you think, right? That happens through schools, right? The mind, if you will. But that's not enough. There is something else. And I'll point it to you in a very interesting way. The first sect that appeared in Islam was the Mu'tazila, if you know what that is. It's a sect that's very intellectual, right? That appeared, wrote so many books, theology and books and things. Anybody knows about them? They're gone. Their intellect, their power, their philosophy, it's really interesting, but it didn't sustain. On the other hand, if you're from India or Pakistan, and you're with the Hindus, right? Grave worship, is it still alive? You go to certain cities and you see certain rituals, and everybody's like, what's this? But it's very hard to get rid of. Why? And this is something Salahuddin, I think, realized. If I want the change to happen on the level of people, I need to address 2 things. The intellect, but there is something else. People are ritualistic by nature. Look at our culture here. There are rituals. It's Christmas, atheist or not, celebrate Christmas. What is it about? Is it religious? Is it something in the mind? I don't think so. It's what? Culture, habit, ritual. One thing about the human, you were created to worship Allah. Rituals are ingrained into us. Give me one civilization that didn't have rituals. You go to Africa, you go to Asia, rituals. Wrong or right, but rituals sustain. If you put rituals in people, in Egypt we have something, I don't know how true that is. If somebody dies, after 40 days we have something called the Arba'in. I don't know if other people have that. But you make the aza, condolences, right? But that's not it. After 40 days, you make another one. I was like, what? I don't think this is, I've never heard, you heard that from Islam or fiqh? And why 40? Right? I've learned, and I'm not sure how true that is, that's from the days of the pharaohs. Because after 40 days, that was when the mummification process ends. There is no mummification in Egypt, right? But this ritual sustains. If you're Egyptian eating fisikh, for example, But every culture has rituals and you don't know where they're coming from. Halloween. And people like it. So people are ritualistic. The Ismailis ingrained Egyptians with
rituals left and right. And people like rituals. So how do I confront the ritualistic aspect? If I only confront the intellectual level, they say yes, 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 and they're going to go back do the same things. So I have to fill that void. You get it? So I need scholars in schools to fill the intellect, and I need another type of scholars to do what? Rituals. And I need the rituals to be according to Sunnah. How do I do that? You see how Salahuddin is thinking? So one of the things that he did is what? Quran. The Ismailis, remember? The Quran was for the Prophet. So the people are so distant from the Quran. So Qadi al-Fadil of Egypt, one of the men of Salahuddin, suggested this. Let's build a Quran school. A school dedicated for the science of the Quran and what? The recitation of the Quran. Notice, not just the sciences of the Quran. What are you teaching? Reciting Quran, that's a ritual, right? And the 7 qira'at. You know, all the types, and they invited one of the greatest, Imam al-Shatibi, one of the greatest, Quran teachers of the time. Up till now, people, have ijazah, it goes through him, right? He was invited to Egypt to lead that school, more than 100,000 books, scholarship for everyone. Quran is continuously read. So a part of the rituals is what, when you go to the masajid? Quran. That's a ritual. Read Quran, It appeals to that. So he started what? The recitation of the Quran as a ritual. To connect people back to the Quran through what? The beauty of the Quran. Right? So that was a major effort that happened there. Another thing was what? Connecting people to the hadith. The same thing Nuruddin Zinki said. Support the hadith scholars. So we connect people with the Prophet ﷺ. How he was. How did he used to eat? How did he... When you eat with your right hand. Rituals, right? Before you sleep on your right side. See, our deen has rituals. When you pray, how do you stand? How do you put your hands? Do it this way. Let people make rituals based on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? The third thing he did is building what we call al-arbita. Right? And this is again a very interesting concept. I don't have time to go through. Remember Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, Imam al-Ghazali, one of their direction was what? If you want to change, if I want to change people, it's not about ilm, you come attend the class and leave. We said, what do? You come to the ribat. You stay with me for 1 year. Stay here in this ribat 1 year. What are you doing? I'm going to be watching you. We have class, but how are you eating? What are you wearing? How are you speaking to your friend? How are you treating your wife? How are you treating your kids? Because we need to change akhlaq. And the way to change akhlaq is what? Suhbah. You need to accompany a sheikh. And therefore, those type of students, they are not necessarily a great scholar like Al-Wa'id ibn Najjar. He's not a scholar, he's an admonisher. But they are so connected to Allah because that akhlaq reflects the akhlaq of the Prophet ﷺ. When you go to a masjid and you find not necessarily a scholar, but that person very kind, very generous, doesn't get angry easily, always giving money, always smiling, always asking you, how are you, right? Always in your need. You see him always praying, always in dhikr. What happens to you? Look at that man. Right? So those students, I need those people, and they need to stay in the orbit because people need to see them. You get the idea? And in one, he made one in Masjid al-Imam al-Husayni in Egypt. So he made one there for specific reasons that we can discuss separately. But that was a direction that Salahuddin did. So he catered to what? 2 things: the mind and the heart, intellect and rituals, right? So that the people would change on a grassroots level, right? So that was one of his efforts. I go quickly through this because I need to go back to the line of event. So if I can summarize it, I would say the change happened the following way. You don't change. Well, this is what we want: a change that's visible, what we call Imran. Basically, what I want a powerful nation. I want justice. I want. His method that followed a scholarly approach is change. Number 1, experiential tawheed. Which means what? I have to realize there is La ilaha illallah. Meaning what? Ma sha'a Allahu kan, wa ma lam yasha' lam yakun. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. All the experiential level of tawheed. Tawakkul. That I really believe Allah is all powerful. I'm really content with whatever Allah does. Rida billah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he started with what? We have to start with tawheed. From tawheed, the second level is what? What do I need to work on? Akhlaq, tazkir. تزكية, أخلاق, your manners. So for example, one of the things that was stressed at the time is what? Generosity, giving. Because there is no taxes. People always ask me, if there is no taxes, how did he have all this? Because by changing people donated so much. Yes, you do not take taxes from them. If you read about the schools, I didn't say that, but like, just look at this list, right? They competed in building schools. So if, just quickly, Salahuddeen, we said he built one school. His sister built 2 schools. His nephew built 2 schools. Al-Qadi father built 1 school, right? You get, everybody's building schools left and right. They're spending, that's their own money. We spoke about Kukbri, right? What he did and how he spent and how he celebrated the birthday of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So generosity became a trait. Right? So akhlaq, this was a very powerful thing. Based on that, then comes Imran. Then you can have civilization. If we attempt to change this and we have no foundation of good akhlaq, we fail. Right? So that was quickly one of the strategies that he used. Right. Quickly, I'm going to move ahead. We're running out of time. By the way, we'll stop after an hour, 20 minutes. I know it's a little bit long, right? So be patient with me. Something happened, the year 571, right? Nuruddin Zinki sends to Salahuddin telling him, I think the time has come. Egypt and Sham are united. It's time to attack Jerusalem. I need your help, right? And Nuruddin Zinki builds a pulpit. Orders some of top notch people in design the most beautiful pulpit, and his intention was, this is the pulpit that I'm going to put in the Masjid al-Aqsa when Allah allows us to free it. So you see his intent, right? And then he asked Salahuddin, now let's join forces, let's start attacking. And Salahuddin differed with Nuruddin Zinki here. He said, Egypt is not ready yet. I cannot leave Egypt for a long time. I can't do a campaign. So they used to what? Attack and come back, right? So they differed on that point. Nuruddin was, the time is due, get your army and join. Salahuddin was not yet. Salahuddin was right. Because a plot was being, again, hatched in the year 571. The same story. The Egyptian army gathered in the south, right, more than 60,000, and decided to make a revolt and attempt to take back Egypt, right? They contacted the Franks in Jerusalem and the Franks on the islands of Sicily. Same story. Attack from the north in Alexandria, we attack from the south. The assassins are now really upset at Salahuddin for abolishing the Ismaili Khilafah. So they contacted them and they said, done, we're going to get rid of Salahuddin. Right? And in the year 571, Salahuddin is in a campaign, attacking the Franks. In his camp, right? He's walking, one of his soldiers come by. Right? And Salahuddin is just, one of my soldiers, I know him. And that soldier gets out a dagger and stabs Salahuddin. Fortunately, he was wearing the chainmail, right, under his turban or whatever, right? So when he hit him, it hit the chainmail. So it didn't go through, but it slid, and it slit his face. That's why Salahuddin has a mark on his face. This is true, right? And then Salahuddin catches the hand of that man, and they fall to the ground. It is said that the people around Salahuddin, they were in shock, so it took them a moment or two to react. They were like, what? When you get this freeze response. And then they jumped onto the man, brought him out, and then got rid of him. Salahuddin stands up. Somebody goes from behind, jumps on Salahuddin with another dagger, one of the soldiers, hits Salahuddin, he's wearing the zarad again, right? And it doesn't go through. Salahuddin falls again, right? And then they grab that man, pushes him away. Salahuddin stands up. A third person comes, jumps at Salahuddin, same story, with a dagger, right? One of the soldiers of Salahuddin, it said he held the dagger with his hands. It slit his fingers were gone, right? But he stopped the man, right? On the expense of himself. And again, Salahuddin falls, then they get this man out, and then at that moment, Salahuddin stands up, his soldiers surround him, and now who should I trust? You get what happened? Who should I trust? It's a chaos now. And the campaign completely went to halt, right? And they ordered, Salahuddin orders, building some wooden fence around his tent, only his loyal, people are there, and now people are like, it created a havoc within Salahuddin's camp, right? We know that after that, Salahuddin started attacking the assassin forts. Right? We saw that in history. And for some reason, Salahuddin starts attacking their forts, and all of a sudden, the attacks stop, and Salahuddin from now on never attacks the assassins again, and they never attack him again. What happened? Like, it was very interesting, you know, so you see that, it's rising, and then all of it, one day, he pulls back, and you don't see that, khalas. So, fears. The assassins write in their books, right? They say the following: when Salahuddin attacked us, right? His soldiers were going against our fort. Then all of a sudden, all his soldiers got paralyzed. And then they saw our sheikh flying in the air above them, telling them, and they were so scared, they ran away, and Salahuddin was so scared, he ran to his tent. And when he entered his tent, he saw our sheikh, Shaykh al-Jabal, above his tent, telling him, "You're under my grip," and Salahuddin was so scared, he ran away. Right? See, like, that's what they used to write, it's in their books. Reality is the following. One of the stories, at least, is that they sent a message to Salahuddin. Remember what happened with the guy with like, and then they sent him another message. They put a poisonous dagger on his bed, and the message was the following: "You do this, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill all your commanders and all your children." And then Muslims will. It's a setback, and it's Salahuddin's uncle that came to him, and this is the most likely scenario. And he told him the following: "Look, there's too many opponents. Franks on one hand, the Ismailis on another hand, the assassins." He said, "We don't have time for this." He said, "Rather, let's focus on the Franks and let's pacify them. Make a deal with them that you would leave them alone so that nobody of your opponents can use them against you." And that's, I think, what Salahuddin did. Right? He said, like, "Okay, let me, because I have other opponents." Right? Right. Meanwhile, two things happen. The Franks show in the city of Alexandria, right? And the revolt is happening in the south. In the city of Alexandria, I'll go fast, a massive fleet appears, more than 200 ships. They land, and the forces start walking to the walls of Alexandria, and the soldiers order everybody in the city, and it said the Franks were shocked. Why? He said the walls of Alexandria has been so well fortified, it is not the city that we're used to. For the last years, Salahuddin has been fortifying all the coastal cities. Again, he's a visionary. He knows that. So this city was well equipped. Fire-throwing equipment, trebuchets, catapults, right? Massive resistance inside the city. Nevertheless, the Franks started building their siege towers. And the second day, a huge fight happened. And the Muslims, and the Franks are fighting. Third day, the Muslims make a sortie out of the city of Alexandria. They go forward, and they burn all the siege towers of the Franks, right? And the battle started from Salat al-Fajr, all the way to Salat al-Asr. And the interesting part is, as they write, Salat al-Asr, everybody's exhausted, the Muslims are done with all the, and they're returning back to the city, and they see a small army coming on the horizon. And they look to the flag, it's the flag of Salahuddin himself. He came all the way from Sham to the end. When they saw that Salahuddin is here, guess what happened? People loved him so much. And the people of Alexandria especially, right? They know him, right? So when Salahuddin is here, all the soldiers turned back and started attacking again. Remember, it started in Fajr Salah, right? And it's said the attack continued Maghrib, Isha. They did not stop. What's happened? The soldiers of Salahuddin were used to Qiyam al-Layl. Very little sleep. The Franks were not used to this. So they carried the fight nighttime. The fight ended Fajr next day. The Franks were completely exhausted. They're not used to this. And remember the iron thing? Can you imagine wearing this for a day? Fighting with a sword and, right? So they were completely exhausted. It was a slaughter. And they started running, jumping into the water, trying to go to their ships, and the Muslims are after them. The whole campaign capitulated in one day. Meanwhile, Salahuddin asked his brother, go down south, meet the Ismaili army. And his brother met Kanz al-Dawla, the leader of the Ismailis there. Battle happened quickly. The army of Salahuddin was successful. They defeated the Ismailis. But this time, Salahuddin, his strategy, by the way, if he ever fights a Muslim, he's very lenient. Meaning what? Which is an Islamic ruling. Sometimes you have to fight your brother. But the ruling is different. If he is running, don't chase him. Meaning what? Like if you fight a non-Muslim or like an oppressor and you defeat him, chase him. But if Muslims have to fight, and he's an oppressor that's doing something, the moment he runs away, leave him alone. Right? But in this battle, Al-Adil, the brother of Salahuddin, did not do that, because those are dangerous people. So he did not leave. He started following them. He went south after them. He did not stop till he annihilated this army of the Ismailis. And that was the true end of the Dawla Ismaili. They never rose after that. Salahuddin did something else. The same philosophy of Nuruddin Zinki. There was one part, one Bu'ra, if you will, one place where the Ismailis still had a control. Yemen. The Red Sea. You know, this is a very important place. All the ships going in that sea have to pass through this, right? Interesting today too, right? There, right? And he realized Yemen is under the Ismailis. And then his vision, like Nuruddin, is what unity. So he sent his troops and his brother all the way south, as you can see, all the way to Sudan, all the way to Somalia. Then they crossed, went to Yemen, Hijaz, and all the way up. And ordered his nephew, Taqiyuddin, to go towards Libya, you know, Barqa. And you can see he expanded. So now all this region is under Nuruddin Zinki and Salahuddin. Now look at how the Crusaders are. You see what's going on. So now everything here is united. But some disturbing news happened, something completely unexpected. Before the Franks leave, they sent a message to Salahuddin, telling him, don't be so happy. Go look what happened to Nuruddin Zinki. Nuruddin Zinki is no more. But no more what happened. So Salahuddin was very disturbed. What do they mean? What happened to Nuruddin? And he sends a letter. He sends a letter to Damascus, saying the following. Rumors came from the accursed enemy regarding our beloved Lord Nuruddin Zinki. May Allah keep him in wellness, for his wellness is the wellness of our own hearts. If the news we received is correct, what is he speaking about? Did Nuruddin die? And what would be most disturbing? Why I was not informed? What's going on? You see, what do you think is going on here? Because that really happened. Nuruddin Zinki passed away. And Salahuddin was not informed. Any guess? You know what he was afraid of? What does that mean? Are we going to fight again? Are we going to split again? Are you afraid from me? Why didn't you tell me? So look what he says. If this news is correct, then know that true men appear in such afflictions. Unite and be careful not to disperse, lest we lose everything we gain. And his proposal, unite under the rule of Nuruddin Zinki's son. And immediately, one thing Salahuddin did, he ordered the coins in Egypt to be coined in the name of the son of Nuruddin Zinki. Sends to the Khalifa, says, I am your loyal servant. I have no plan of any revolt. I'm uniting under you. Let's unite. Everybody loves Nuruddin. His son is young, but okay, let's unite under his son. Unfortunately, what was happening in Sham, what do you think happened?
He's still alive.
No, Nuruddin was not alive, unfortunately, he passed away, right? But the problem is the following. People started to differ. And remember, it takes typically 1 or 2 people to cause a havoc, right? So, in Aleppo and then in Mosul, and I'm not going to give names, this will take a long time, so I'll go quickly. Some people in Mosul and Aleppo started to what? I take Mosul, you take Aleppo, the same story again. And the people in Damascus were confused. What is going on? So they sent a letter to them, don't send to Salahuddin, he's very powerful, because he has Egypt. Let's sort things out, then send to him a message, right? And then to make things worse, the leader of Aleppo did 2 things. He said, well, send the son of Nuruddin Zinki to Aleppo, I'll be his guardian, and we all rule under him. And the people of Damascus complied. Here is the son of Nuruddin Zinki. They sent some of their commanders. The moment he arrived in Aleppo, he captured everybody from Damascus, threw them in the dungeons, took the son of Nuruddin, and what did he do? He said, you know, I am your loyal servant, I rule under you. But what do you think is happening here? I am the custodian of this young boy. Everybody has to. I am the ruler. Right? So again, in Mosul, same thing happened. Right? A man takes Mosul and the city is divided. And Salahuddin was caught into this. And the Franks did not, they started sending a campaign towards Aleppo. And what this man did, and I'm not going to mention the name because again I don't want to confuse you, he offered them return, and I'm going to offer you some forts for free, but just leave me alone. Salahuddin sends to the scholars of Sham, the masses, and say, why did they do that? I was ready to come, I have my army, and I had no interest in taking any of the cities there, right? But it's not permissible to deliver the Muslim cities to the hands of the Franks because they're afraid of me. And he sought the help of the scholars. Right? Then he sent to the city of Damascus. And by the grace of Allah, they complied. They said, come. And Salahuddin takes 700 knights, goes to the city of Damascus. They open the gates. Salahuddin comes in, and he takes the city of Damascus peacefully. Right? And then he sends to the other groups, I'm not interested in taking your cities. I'm here, I want to rule under, Nuruddin's son. Let's unite, let's negotiate. And they said, let's negotiate. So Salahuddin goes out with 700 people. The Mosul and Aleppo show with an army of 10,000. And then they realize, wait a minute, he has only 700 knights. We have 10,000 knights. What do you think happened? Let's attack. And a battle happens. And by the grace of Allah, I have no how, those 700 knights or 1,000 knights of Nuruddin Zinki with Taqiyuddin, his nephew, defeated the joint army of Mosul and Aleppo. But now what's happening? Salahuddin's like, we're fighting, and this is the battle. Once they started running away, he orders his soldiers, leave them alone, they're our brothers and sisters, nobody touches them. I don't want to fight. So when people tell you, Salahuddin fought Muslims, what do you want him to do? You get the idea? It's a fitna. I mean, should he just leave them and go back? Right? And then he goes to the city of Aleppo and says, let's negotiate. And interestingly enough, they sent a young girl to negotiate with him. Who do you think that young girl is? Nuruddin's daughter. And the moment Salahuddin sees this girl, how do you think the negotiation went?
Easy.
There is no negotiation. Yes, what do you want? I want you to leave. Done. What else do you want? I want you to give me this fort and this fort and this fort. Done, right? End of negotiation. That's Salahuddin's character. This is the daughter of Nuruddin Zinki. I would never tell her no. Nevertheless, for the next years, you see this agony. Salahuddin doesn't want to fight Muslims, yet those people continuously provoke and fight him, right? One of the things that would lead to a major change, this is a game changer here. The leader of Aleppo decides to create a divergence for Salahuddin. So what does he do? Let's make sure the time. Do we have 15 minutes? Are you guys? Okay. So what does he do?
Can I change?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
1 minute commercial break. Bismillah. Back again.
You're welcome.
So he decides to do something really wicked. In Aleppo, Nuruddin Zinki, whenever he imprisoned some of the knights of the Crusaders, some of them he would never release. Basically, the Crusaders, the Franks, had an order called the Templars. You're familiar with the Templars and the Hospitallers, right? This is the helmet of a Templar, by the way. Those are knights, they were the toughest of knights, because those were a group of people that dedicated their life to what? To that cause. They would never desist from attacking Muslims. They would never, and for them this is a holy cause. So the Templars and the Hospitallers are known for their aggression, non-compromising ever, stance, and they're very zealous in their deen. And when they fight, right? So Nuruddin Zinki, certain, knights, and when he captures, he would never release. One of them, a leader, a man that would change history, right? By the name of Arnaud, Reynald in English, right? And Arnaud was one of the worst crusaders ever. Right? Just to tell you a little bit about who Arnaud is. He used to be in Antioch, right? Back in the days of Nuruddin Zinki, right? When he ruled. And one of the things that he did, not against Muslims, against Christians, right? He had an agreement with the island of Cyprus, right? And then he decided that, it's time to attack the island of Cyprus. But I need ships, I need money to build ships. So he went to Antioch, went to the priest of the church, and he told him, I need the money of the church. Give me all the gold of the church so that I can do. And of course the priest said, this is not okay. This is the money of the church, I cannot give it to you. Reynald took that priest, tortured him, then tied his hand behind his back, chained him, right? and put honey on his wounds and throw him in the desert. What do you think is happening? Desert, wound, honey. What do you think happened to the man?
Fine.
Of course, in bugs. Like, can you imagine? Honey, wound, hot, bugs. The man became infested with bugs. Of course, he could not resist, he broke down. And he gave Arnaud the money. Arnaud built the ships, surprised the island of Cyprus, which was at the time under the Byzantine Empire, Orthodox Christians, right? He landed. What he did in the island was, by the Christian account, killing everybody, men, women, children, right? He met the priests and monks in the island. What he did is he cut their noses and their ears and sent them back to the emperor this way. Whatever he could not carry from the island, he burned everything and he left. That's Arnaud, right? That's how he was against Christians. For Muslims, he had nothing but utter hate. So that when Nuruddin captured him, you are not going to, he kept him in prison for 15 years. Now comes this man and he decides, let's release Arnaud. Why? He will surely create a divergence for Salahuddeen Al-Ayubi. Get the idea? So now Arnaud is on the loose. Now this man decides to do something unthinkable, right? He was centered in Al-Kark, which is like right in the south tip below Jerusalem, right? And what he did is he thought, okay, let's see. Salahuddin is in Egypt, right? Very powerful. Shem is there, right? But those Muslims, they had those pilgrims coming by. Where are they going? Mecca and Medina. Okay, here is my plan. I'm going, this is what he said, I'm going to go to the city of Medina. Attack, go to the grave of their prophet, dig it out, carry the body of their prophet back to my city. If they want to see him, they come to me and they pay me money. He attempted to attack as the city of Medina. He attempted an attack on the prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was very intelligent. So he said, well, here is how I'm going to do it. Salahuddin and Nuruddin built towers all over the place. So if I try to move by land, they detect me. But they don't expect any Crusaders ships in the Red Sea. So he built ships inside Al-Karb. Right? Disassembled them, carried them on camelback, went all the way to the port of Ayla on the Red Sea, right? Deployed the ships and started sailing south towards the city of Medina. You see the plan, right? And that was a completely unexpected move. And that's what Arnaud did, right? He built his ships, went to the city of Ayla, right? Landed his ships in the sea, in the Red Sea, and started going south, heading to the city of Medina. That's his story. On the way, he would meet Muslim ships in the Red Sea. They were not used to Franks in the Red Sea. The Red Sea is a Muslim place, right? And he started being the pirate of the Red Sea. That's what I would call it. Every ship he would see goes, attacks, take everything, and sink the ship. Reports started coming to Salahuddin about Franks in the Red Sea, heading towards the city of Medina. The response of Salahuddin was no waiting. He ordered his commander, Hassan Elwan, the man of the fleet. See, he was prepared. He wasn't a reactionary. Oh, what do I do now? No. I have a fleet. So he ordered him, take the fleet at once. Go there, stop this man at all costs. Carry whatever troops you need in your ships. And they take a group of knights, some of the top knights of Salahuddin, goes in ships and a chase starts happening. Arnaud, heading south towards Medina, followed closely by Hassan Elwan and the fleet of Salahuddin. Arnaud reaches there first, lands in the port of Yambu', right? Maybe hundreds of miles away from the city of Medina, right? And start marching towards the city of Medina. No stop. Hassan Elwan lands after him, no sleeping. The knights have their horses, on your horse, and start chasing. And they meet the army of Arnaud in Rabigh, maybe 100 miles outside the city of Medina. That close. And a battle happens between Arnaud and the forces of Salahuddin Al-Ayubi under Hassan Elwan. And by Allah's grace, Hassan Elwan defeats, they destroy. You can imagine the jealousy of, if you attack Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what do you think is happening? Yeah. Right? People were furious, right? It was very personal. And it said everybody they captured in that battle, killed. And the scholars turned to Salahuddin, because they know his leading. He said, look, there is no room in our Sharia to spare any of the prisoners of war in this battle. You get it? If you're a prisoner of war in that battle, Definitely, there is no exception. But unfortunately, Arnaud escaped with very few people. He returns back to Al-Qarq. What does he do? He sees Muslim pilgrims, again passing by. They had a treaty, and he decides to attack them. And when they yell, the treaty, we have a treaty with you that we're safe, he starts mocking and telling them, قولوا لمحمدكم أن يخلصكم. Go tell your Muhammad to free you. And he mocks them, mocks Allah, mocks Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Salahuddin was furious. And Salahuddin swore at this point, if Allah makes him catch or not, he will kill him himself. Now what happens? Salahuddin orders, and I'm going quick here. Right? It's time to attack. And he takes his forces, goes to the city of Al-Qarq, lays siege to the city, right? And start, because he has to get Arnaud for this, and start, bombarding the city. They come from inside the city telling him, well, wait a minute, there's a problem. What's happened? There is a wedding in the city. Who's getting married? Arnaud's stepdaughter is getting married. And your bombardment is affecting the wedding. Salahuddin's response was the following. Where is the wedding happening? He said, well, in the eastern side of the city. He orders his troops, don't attack the eastern side of the city, they're getting married. Let her get married in peace, right? Attack the other side, right? He started breaching the wall. Arnaud sends for help. By the way, Arnaud is a very zealous person. His biggest loyal fans are the Templars, right? And they send to the king of Jerusalem. And the Franks united. And a joint army, because Salahuddin is dangerous, they show up to help Arnaud. Salahuddin backs up and sends a message to everybody. This is the time to unite. What interestingly happened, you remember Aleppo and Al-Mosul, because of this situation, they decided to join Salahuddin. Remember this guy in Aleppo, what did he do? He sent this guy out to do what? To create a diversion. He became the reason that the Ummah united. When everybody learned that the Franks are attempting to attack the city of Medina, what do you think happened now? You could not but unite with Salahuddin. So now everybody, Al-Mosul, Aleppo, soldiers came left from light to Salahuddin. He had an army that he never had before. And he said, this is the time for what? And now a major attack. I've never gathered this much. Everybody came, right? And that was a ground of a major battle that's about to happen, right? So Salahuddin gets his army and he wants a showdown. He wants an attack, a major battle between him and the Franks, right? And the Franks gather their forces and they go inside, their city, and they're not coming out to Salahuddin. But he wants a battle. He asked his commanders, what should we do? And they said, well, let's disperse it. And he said, no, I want a battle. We're ready. This army, I never had as such army before. It's time to take them down. We're very ready. And then he makes a plan. And there's a very interesting reason why I'm sharing this with you. I hope we can find it. So the plan of Salahuddin was ingenious. And again, we have to learn. I want you to notice the strategy of Salahuddin. What does he want? He wants a major battle between two armies. And as a strategist, you always want, you have to make your opponent fight where you want, not where he wants, right? So how do I get them out? How do you entice them? Knowing Arnaud and knowing the Templars, he used religious zealousy against them. What do you mean? He did the following. He ordered his troop, go to the city of Tabarayr, right? Attack the city, don't take it. Break the walls, but be slow. Don't take it at once. Why? The wife of one of the nobles, Raymond, was in the city of Tabarayr. Raymond is a great knight, right? He's the opposite of Arnaud. Formidable warrior, but is appreciative of Muslims, right? So he said his wife is in the city of Tabarayr. If I attack and I don't take the fort, and I don't take the city, she's going to send to Jerusalem for help. And that's what happened. And she sent to the king of Jerusalem, help, Salahuddin is attacking, help me. What do you think is going on here? What does the king, if you're the king, what do you do?
Send those troops.
You have one of two options. Option one, see, this is game theory, by the way. Option one, don't do anything. But if you choose that, what will happen to you? Everybody in your kingdom, what is this kind of king? A lady is asking for help, and Salahuddin is taking the fort, and you're sitting here doing nothing, right? So the zealous people will do what? Will push you to go out. You see how Salahuddin is thinking? And that's exactly what happened. She sends for help, and the king in Jerusalem gathers everybody and says, well, Salahuddin is attacking the city of Tabarayr. and she's sending for the distress. We have to go and help. Raymond, her own husband, says, I'm telling you, she is my own wife. I am telling you, Salahuddin is a gentleman. He is not going to hurt her. Do not go out and fight Salahuddin. This is what he wants us to do. And I've never seen an army and men like the men around Salahuddin. It will be a mistake to fall for that trap. Stay here, let him take Tabaré. And as for my wife, he is not going to do anything to her. He's a gentleman, I know, don't worry about it. What do you think Arnaud did? Zealousy? Religious zealousy? How dare you say this? Are you scaring us from the army of Salahuddin? We are the followers of Christ. We are on the truth. They are like wood and we are like fire. More wood, the fire will light more. You have to repent. Did you become a Muslim? Ya munafiq, ya, you know. You have to repent. And guess what happened? Did you see the zealousy? And the Templars were, that's it, fiery. Right? We're ready for Christ's sake. We have a big army. We gather. We will destroy them. Unite. You know. And Raymond could not do anything but, خلاص. I repent and I agree. But you will remember what I say. Right? And then the king decides to take all the armies, gathers all armies from all the cities, because Salahuddin army is big. They gather 30,000 to 60,000, right? Everybody comes. And they take what they claim to be the true cross. According to them, this is the cross that Jesus was crucified, according to them, crucified on it, right? And they believe that this with us will win. And the army start marching. And the plan was the following. We will go, and it's a one-day march. We reach the city of Tabariyah, right? And we attack Salahuddin there, we break the siege, you know, we have a huge army. Salahuddin says the following. جاءونا ونحن أولي قوة. They swallowed the bait. And they came to us, and we are in a position of strength. What does he mean by that? Please learn this, right? This is a trap. Because it's July 4th, July 5th, summer. This is desert. All the wells in the region, Salahuddin poisoned. No water. Desert. Desert, sun, armor, heat. And they think they're going to be reaching there in one day. What do you think Salahuddin's plan was? The plan is what? I got them to fight where I want. Please learn this. Sometimes our enemy baits us. I want you to react that way. I'm doing something ridiculous here, so I invoke your religious zealousy, so you come out, fight me where I already planned for you to fight. I know your reaction, because you're religiously zealous. Your religious zealousy is going to mask your logic, and you're going to act with emotions and quote some verses and not thinking that logic is against your deen, because I'm speaking to us, sometimes we do that, right? And then you end up doing exactly what I predicted for you, and then you lose. So they came out, and Salahuddin's plan was simple. The plan is, the only water is the lake of Tabariyah. My plan is, they will not reach the lake of Tabariyah ever. So he ordered his troops, you know, and he divided his troops into three, right? So you have the Crusaders, the king guys in the middle, Raymond, you know, with the Templars in the front, right? And in the back, Balian, the master of the hospital, ordered in the back, right? So this is the army. And Salahuddin is in the center, his nephew Taqiyuddin is in the front, and Kokburi is on the back. And he ordered his army, lay a trap and surround them. And he orders archers and continuous attacks. Not a full battle. Slow them down. That's the strategy. So whenever they're moving, the Muslims would attack. You start to align and you start to chase, they come back, they don't. You start to move again, arrows, and they start to attack. You form. So the army extended over 2 miles. You know, the Christian army was now, because the back came to a complete halt under the attack of Kokburi, right? So the army now is being like what's spread. And a day passed by and they're not even there yet. And the king was forced to spend the night in the desert. And Salahuddin orders, no rest. We do qiyam, right? So the drums all night. We not even let them sleep, right? Arrows all night. Attacks all night. No sleeping for them. Deprive them of sleep. And next day they wake up, and he knew they are going to attempt to do what? They want to reach the lake. So he orders Taqiyuddin, your orders for today, no attacking. Your order is prevent them from going to the lake of Tabari. And the day starts. And the Franks, massive attack. And the forces join. And Salahuddin's plan went well. He stood in front of them. The day passes, and they still could not succeed in reaching the lake of Tabari. And nighttime comes. And Salahuddin's command is what? Same thing. They say Salahuddin spent the night with his soldiers in Qiyam. He used to go on the tents and he would look. If he sees the soldier sleeping, he would say, from there comes defeat. He sees the soldier praying, from there comes victory. So they were, right? Asking Allah for victory, right? Not giving a break. And he said, I know what will happen. They ran out of water. So the third day, he said, we're going to be fanatically attacking for the water. So he gave his command. If we break this, we break them, right? And the day starts. And it's heat, and the desert is hot, and wind is blowing. He noticed, he got some of the shrubs in the desert, and he started lighting them on fire. Smoke was blowing in the face of the Franks. Heat, smoke, lack of water, right? And they started the attack. And Raymond takes some of the top knights of the Templars and decides, I'm going to do the famous, knight's charge. Gather all the knights together, charge against Taqiyuddin. Taqiyuddin's movement was really interesting from a strategic perspective. They're attacking him, and he ordered his troops, very well disciplined. As they come, he gives a signal, let them pass. So they open a wedge, and the Franks just pass, only to discover that it's downhill from there. You get it? You're at full charge with those forces, it's downhill, you can't stop. So they went all the way to the lake of Tabariya, downhill. Then Taqiyuddin orders his forces, now join back. Are they going to attack uphill? It's over for them. And then he orders, very interesting, he orders make a way for them to get out of the battle. Meaning what? Go out, leave. The army is, but the top 300 knights, and Raymond said, alas, the battle is lost. He realized what's going on. We're done. And he takes the 300 knights and flees out of the battle. At this moment, Taqiyuddin turns around. And Salahuddin gives the signal, full charge. And both Kokbari, Salahuddin, and Taqiyuddin attacks. Taqiyuddin is nephew of Salahuddin, a very formidable knight, right? He attacks and he heads for the true cross. And he succeeds himself with his knights to go. He captures the true cross from the Christians and returns back to the Muslims with it. Once the Christians saw that, he said the infantry started to surrender, left and right. And they started to drop their weapons. They're exhausted, no sleep, no water, tired of fighting. They're surrounded in the desert, and they started to surrender. The king in the center, again, whatever left of the hospitals and the Templars, they go over a hill, and they make one tent for the king, and they start defending him. Salahuddin orders the troops, the battle is not over, attack, and attack this center, attack the king. His son describes the scene. He says, I was with my father, as we're attacking, and we're going up, 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 and I tell my father, we're winning. And then the Crusaders would attack, and they push our forces back. And then he says, I see my father upset. He says, Shaitan must never win. And then he commands them to attack again. And the same story happens. He says, they go up, 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 and they say, we won. And then they attack the third time, right? They attack, and they're going up, and then they said, I told my father, we won. And my father told me, Salahuddin, stop. We are not going to win till this tent, and he points to the tent of the king, falls down. He said, once Salahuddin did this, I saw the tent falling down. So his soldiers succeeded in reaching the tent of the king, and the tent. He said, we won. And then he said, I looked, I couldn't see my father. Where is he? Sujood. Sujood. The Muslims are victorious. He said, and then I saw my father doing sujood. We were victorious. And everybody, this is the battle of Hittin. This is a major victory for Salahuddin. 60,000 Franks came. The estimates, 30,000 killed, 30,000 prisoners of war. Only a handful of knights fled with Raymond, a handful of hospitallers fled with Bailey. Everybody else is arrested. The king is arrested, King Guy. The master of the Templars is arrested. Arnaud was arrested. Next day, Salahuddin comes and orders the king and Arnaud to be presented to him. And they're thirsty. And he gives water to the king. And the king drinks water. In the Muslim tradition, Arab tradition, if you give water to someone, he's safe. Right? So he's telling him, what, drink, you're safe. And the king drinks and he gives water to Arnab. And Salahuddin said, no, no. I did not give him water, he is not safe. And then he approaches Arnab and he tells him, Kan tagdur, how much do you betray? And Arnab responds back, this is the habit of the kings and that's what they do. And Salahuddin was so infuriated, like this man has no, and he gives him one choice. Become a Muslim. That's your only choice. Else, death. There is no other choice for you. And what do you think Arnab does? No, mocks him. And Salahuddin takes his sword and he puts Arnab to death. The prisoners of war, they were spared. Only one group Salahuddin did not spare. Who do you think they are? The Templars. All the Templars should be gathered. The Templars are all, and he said, they will never stop. If I let them go, they never desist. وهم أخبث أهل الأرض, and the worst people on earth nowadays. So there is no hope for them. Some of the mustashriqin, look, Salahuddin is killing prisoners. Those are criminals of war. Those are people they're fundamentalists. They are bound to attack you again. And they were caught in battle, right? And this is according to our Sharia, right? So those were the only group that Salahuddin, he spared their masters, by the way. The master of the Templars. He's the only one that Salahuddin spared. And then Salahuddin, by the way, this link is, there is a video by non-Muslims about the Battle of Hattin. If you're interested, you can watch it. You can find it in the PowerPoint slide, right? One of the things I didn't mention, in the Battle of Hattin, Salahuddin was accompanied by scholars. Among them is Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi is a great Hanbali scholar, a student of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. Now, why am I mentioning this man in particular? The book, you remember the book of Ihya Ulumuddin of Imam al-Ghazali? Right? The book had some problems, and some scholars criticized it. Ibn al-Jawzi said that. It's a great book, but has some issues with some ahadith and some issues. So what does he do? He said, I'm going to write Minhaj al-Qasidin. I'm going to take this book, remove the things I see are problematic, so that it's safe for people to read. Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi comes and says, but the book is so detailed for scholars. I want to simplify it for the public. You know the work of Imam al-Ghazali? Abbreviated. So he writes Mukhtasar Minhaj al-Qasidin. If you want a book, and please, if you want today a book that represents what those generation and the scholars taught, I highly recommend Mukhtasar Minhaj al-Qasidin. It's translated into English. There is the link, right? Also, Sheikh Omar Suleiman has a series where it's called Behind the Scenes, where he actually goes through this book. Right? So if you want, I highly recommend it. This is very practical, very readable book. But everybody knows that what are we doing? We're taking the average, dividing it by 2. Everybody wants to win. So people are not going to choose randomly. If people choose randomly, 0, 100, 50, what is the average? 50. But you miss one thing. We said we're going to divide the average by 2. So the winning number should be 25, right? So some people would think a little bit and they would say 50. And they miss the 2. Some other people will say what? You didn't get it. They say 50 divided by 2. They pick what? 25. Now, a game theorist will think behind that. Say, okay, I know what you're going to think. Part of you are going to say 50. The other part is going to say 25. What should I choose? 33 divided by 2? 16. What do you think the winning number is? 17. 17. Right? And I'll show you something. This is statistics, right? This is what happened, right? So we have some people, by the way, some people chose a number above 50, right? You cannot win that way. Because if everybody chooses 100, 100 divided by 2 is 50. Right? So most people chose what? Most people chose 50, and then 25. Some actually went a step further. A game theorist will think what? If everybody thinks they're going to choose what? 50 divided by 2, 25. But if everybody chooses 25, then the average will be 25. And the correct number should be 12 and a half. But wait a minute, if everybody thinks this way, everybody will pick 12 and a half. You see what's going on? How many moves are you ahead? You know when you play chess? When you make a move, how do you think in chess? When you make a move, how will my opponent react? Right? See, I make one move, he's probably going to do this. And if he does this, what is my reaction? A strategist does not plan just one step ahead. He has to take what? My opponent response in the equation. This is game theory. Game theory is a mathematical formulation of this concept. Right? Now, interestingly enough, what I did, by the way, I got the profile of the people in this room. You know what that means? If I want to give you such a game again, I know how many people thinks first order, 50, how many people think 25, how many people think 12.5. I can predict your response now. You get it? So if I give you a challenge, I know statistically what your response is. People do that for economy, stocks. People do that for politics. People do that for war. It's a science. There is math. There is equations involved, right? And they evaluate. The more we fight, the more I build my coefficients, the more I tailor it. Has this been done for us? Do our opponents nowadays use game theory against us? Do we have any idea what game theory is? Do we think this way? We just react. But our opponents, what do? They measure our reaction, they form statistics, and they predict us. So when they do a move, they know you're probably going to do this. And that's exactly what I want you to do, because I have prepared my second move for you. You get it? And we fall for it. And then we are, why is this happening? Actually, you did not take means. Right? It's a mathematical science. You can see it. I don't know if you can read it. Israeli government, Hamas. What's the probabilities and responses? Papers. Differential equation, right? The Israeli responsive actions could be analyzed according to the following equation. The expected outcome of Hamas when engaging in violence, responsive action is equations. If K is smaller than this, then Hamas will not accept the offer. This is public domain. I don't know if my message I'm trying to convey here. Settlement terms. The Israeli government expected outcome. You see the mathematics involved? It's a science. Who's studying this from our ummah? You get what I'm saying? I'm speaking to the new generation. The foundation of this is in our deen. The concept of ma'alat. You go to study Sharia, guess what? It's even probabilistic outcome. And I'll give you examples. Very known, well known. The Prophet ﷺ, when he told Aisha, لولا أن قولك حديث عهد بالجاهلية لهدمت الكعبة. Hadn't it been, when he opened Mecca and people just converted, he told Aisha, hadn't it been that most of those people are new converts to Islam, the right thing to do is to destroy the Kaaba. Why? It's built wrong. The Kaaba is not built in the right way. The Kaaba used to have two doors. Hijr Ismail is a part of the Kaaba. Quraysh built the Kaaba wrong. The right thing to do is what? Build it right. Why am I not going to do that? The right thing to do is what? Build the Kaaba right. So a zealous religious person, sincere, what will he do? I don't care. This is the right thing. You should do it no matter what the outcome is. Because I'm on the truth. I'm doing the right thing that pleases Allah. What does our Sharia say? What did Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said? Yes, that's right. But what's the consequence? What is the probabilistic outcome? If I was to do this, how will the people react? Those newcomers will see me destroying the Kaaba. What do you think probably they will do? They will start revolting. And then my action is going to be what? Fight. Civil war. People will die. Is it worth it? Which is more important? Building the Kaaba right or losing 2,000, 3,000 people? You get it? So because this is a probabilistic outcome, it does not merit me destroying the Kaaba. Leave it alone. When the head of the hypocrites were exposed, the one that caused so much trouble, and Umar ibn Khattab said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, kill him." I mean, it's known, the fatwa is that, a traitor should be killed. What did he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say? He said, no. Why? The Shara says to kill him. I know this is Shara. But the part of Sharia is what? What is the probabilistic outcome? He said, if I kill him, لا حتى لا يتحدث الناس أن محمد يقتل أصحابه. If I killed him, my opponent's media is going to start propagating that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam kills his companions, and it will hurt our da'wah. The benefit versus harm, this outweighs this. So the answer is no. I hope this way of thinking of المآلات مقاصد الشريعة is a part of our deen. When we only think I do the right thing, irrespective of the consequences, we lose the heart of the Sunnah. Not only that, our opponents can predict us 100%, and therefore their moves will be tailored to such, like what Salahuddin did. He realized what Arnott is, he realized what the Templars is, so he knew how to drive them to the desert, and how to get rid of all of them. You see their mistake? Their mistake was what? Did you think he wants you to come out? You're falling for his trap. That's the wrong move. You get it? Please, this is a concept that you saw with Salahuddeen Al-Ayubi, with our We need to think this way. I'm speaking to the next generation. Right? This is something we need to study. Now it's a science, but we need to get along with the program, inshallah. But I'm going to stop here, inshallah. And after that, we're going to talk about what is the next step after Hattab. Is it Jerusalem? What will happen next? So inshallah, we'll have 15 minutes and then we'll return after that, inshallah. Jazakallah.